What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hawks Nest, episode 6, where we're going to be talking about the week 4 matchup versus number 7 Penn State this Saturday, the 23rd, up in Happy Valley. Penn State is favored by 14.5, and the over under is 40.5 points. So last week, Iowa played Western Michigan, and I'm not going to go super in depth about the recap. They beat an inferior team. It was extremely boring to watch because Iowa ended up falling into the same old offense. It kind of just made the game drag on. My one note about the game is that walk-on Iowa running back Max White scored a touchdown with 30 seconds remaining in the game, ended up putting Iowa up 41-10. And I want to highlight this because Max's great grandpa is Max Hawkins, a starting lineman for the 1939 Iowa Hawkeye football team that was nicknamed the Iron Men, which was led by Iowa's only Heisman Trophy winner, Niall Kinnick. So I thought that was pretty cool. And on a personal note, he's the oldest son of my high school football coach. So I thought that was pretty awesome. So the biggest questions heading into this Penn State game. First off is I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but what is Iowa's offensive identity? Every week, Brian Ferentz tries to put the offense in a position to succeed. Um, they're more spread than they used to be. They're trying to air the ball out. The offense is in position to score, but ends up always falling up short. And last week was really evident when they just stopped passing pretty much in the fourth, midway through the third into the fourth, and they just ran the ball the last little bit of the game without even letting Cade try to attempt a pass. That leads me to my next question. Is Cade really the answer everyone thought he was going to be at quarterback? For the third game in a row, Cade isn't healthy, so there is that. And he's starting to become a liability because of it. Multiple times in the Western Michigan game, you saw Brian Ferentz just ripping into him, telling him he's making stupid decisions and that he needs to straighten up. And Cade was just kind of not listening, not having it. Cade forced multiple passes last week. And honestly, he was lucky that he only finished with 2 interceptions. He could have easily had 3 or 4. And through the first 3 games, he's only completing 53% of his passes for only 412 yards and 4 touchdowns. But like I said, he has 3 picks already. And if he continues to struggle, I wonder how short of a leash he will really have. And I'm curious to see if they'll switch over to Deacon Hill, the bigger, honestly, he may even be more athletic quarterback. And number 3, who steps up for Luke Lachey this year? I don't see Lachey coming back anytime soon after that ankle foot injury. So that leads me to wonder, will Iowa start leaning on Eric All Jr. more? So far this year, he has 7 receptions for 81 yards and a touchdown. Last year, he had to sit out, but in 2021, while at Michigan with Cade, we all know he was one of the best tight ends in the country or in the conference. He finished with 38 receptions, 437 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But also after the injury, we got to see some new faces. We saw Steven Stilianos and Addison Ostrenga. Both had multiple catches last week. Prior to last week, there was no experience. Looking at Iowa's kind of track record with players, they'll lean more on Stilianos just because he's an upperclassman compared to Ostrenga being a freshman. Number 4, again, has Iowa's defense taken a step back? This isn't the dominant top 3 in almost every defensive category defense that Iowa's had over the last 5 or 6 years. This year, they're giving up 310 yards per game with almost 5 yards per play. That ranks them outside the top 40 in the nation. They give up a first down 35% of the time on third down, putting them outside the top 50, and 40% of the time on fourth down, again, putting them outside the top 50. And while being one of the top teams in the country in turnovers over the last few years, they've really struggled to actually force any this year. They've had multiple opportunities, especially in the Iowa State game, but the ball will hit the DB or the linebackers right in the hands and they'll drop it. It's not that same consistency of the turnovers that we've seen. So some of the key matchups that I'm looking forward to this weekend, immediately it has to be Happy Valley versus the Hawkeyes. It's a night game, so it's going to be a whiteout. We all know how intense that atmosphere is up there during whiteouts, and the crowd can easily take teams out of the game just like that. And with Iowa's offense underperforming, I expect this crowd to be even more loud, more chaotic, just to make sure that the offense is almost non existent. Next, it's Penn State's run game versus Iowa's front seven. Penn State has one of the best backfield duos in the country, and in my opinion, I think it is the best backfield duo. They have RB1 Nick Singleton. He broke out last year as a true freshman, finished with almost 1,100 yards and 12 touchdowns. He is the most complete running back Penn State's had since Saquon. He can run over you, but he also has the ability to make a cut and leave you in the dust afterwards. This season, he has 154 yards and 5 touchdowns. And his running mate, RB2, would be Katron Allen. He was in the same recruiting class as Singleton, and I believe if he was at any other school in the country, he would be a starter. Last year, he finished with 867 yards and 10 touchdowns. This year, he actually leads the team with 208 yards on the ground, but only has 2 touchdowns to go with it. And while he may not get a lot of snaps this week, I think the X factor may actually be their third string running back, Trey Potts. He's a transfer from Minnesota. He was a 4-year starter there. So he has experience against this Iowa defense. And again, like I said, he may not get a lot of reps, but he can be more of like a second position coach, kind of helping Singleton and Allen read the defense when they're on the sidelines. The next is Iowa tackles versus Penn State edges. Penn State has 2 potential first-round draft picks playing edge, the obvious being Chop Robinson, who was the 22nd ranked recruit coming out of high school. He originally enrolled to Maryland but transferred to Penn State in 2022. He has the athleticism to line up with a hand in the dirt, but can also play upright. While Chop is known and will still cause havoc, the guy on the other side is someone who I think is almost as talented and is skyrocketing up draft boards, and that is Adisa Isaac. I probably messed up that name, so I apologize. He was the 66th ranked recruit in the 2018 class. So he's been there for a while. He's honed his craft. He's now probably like right there with Chop. He's more of a finesse edge rusher. He has a super strong swim move, and his first step off the line is lightning fast. And the reason why I'm really worried about these edges is because Iowa's offensive line has struggled against lesser competition. Utah State was able to get in there. Western Michigan was able to get in there. Iowa's offensive line against 2 stud edges, I think, will really struggle. So some Penn State players I'm going to watch. The first one, Kalen King. He's a junior corner. He may be the best corner in the country outside of Kool-Aid from Alabama. He was a preseason All-American on all the major outlets. Due to Penn State blowing out almost everyone so far this year, his stats haven't been super impressive. He's only got 8 tackles and 1 pass breakup. And with Iowa's receivers being non-existent, going up against a guy like Kalen King, I am expecting the same. I don't think Iowa's receivers will really be a factor in this game. The next is Abdul Carter. He's a sophomore linebacker. He started every game for the Nittany Lions last year and finished the season with 56 total tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. And he really broke out last year for him in his first year starting. And this year he's building right on top of that. He's got 8 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack, and he actually got his first career interception last year. And he is the middle force for that linebacker core. So I'm expecting Logan Lee, Connor Colby to get a lot of pressure from him right up the middle. My next one is Keandre Lambert Smith. He's a junior wide receiver, listed 6'1, 185. He may be the most all around wide receiver Penn State has on the roster this year, which is shocking because top wide receiver transfer target Dante Cephas transferred there. And I honestly thought I would be talking about him this year, but he really hasn't shown up this season. Lambert Smith has the ability to go up and body a DB on one play, and then the next zigzag through a defense on some sort of short route and take it 75 yards to the house, like he did earlier this year against West Virginia. He's one of Drew Aller's favorite targets this year. He leads the team with 13 receptions, 220 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And with Jermani Harris coming back last week, really struggling against Western Michigan wide receivers, I would not be surprised if Penn State targets him instead of going up against Sebastian Castro or Cooper DeJean. So I'm expecting Smith to line up on Harris a lot on Saturday. And with that being said, it is prediction time, and I hate to say it. I think it's going to be Penn State 35, Iowa 17. This one was actually really hard to predict because Iowa has won the last 2, but Penn State has won the last 6 out of 10. So it really all depends on if Iowa can figure the offense out. And with that being said, I appreciate you all for watching. And if you enjoyed this, make sure you follow the CFB Nation for all your college football news. You can find us on X at the CFB Nation. And you can find more info from me on X at DNow_T2T. And as always, go Hawks.